Gather close, children of the soil, for tonight I tell you a tale passed down from our grandmothers. It is a tale not written in books, but carved into the hearts of those who lived it. A tale of a woman named Adaeze, who married a man with eyes as warm as fire. His name was Emeka, and the village called him a blessing sent from the heavens. But blessings do not hide behind masks, and gifts do not come wrapped in deception. Only the moonbird knew what walked into Umunna village that harmattan season, and only the spirits whispered what Adaeze would one day have to learn the hard way. Adaeze was the jewel of Umunna village, graceful as the egret, hardworking as the weaver bird, or laughter filled the compound, the way rain fills a dry riverbed. Completely and without warning, every young man in the village had sought her hand, but her father was a careful and wise man. He had said, "A daughter is not a goat to be traded for the highest bride price." When Emeka arrived from a distant land with fine gifts and even sweeter words, the village rejoiced. "A man of means has come for our daughter," the women sang as they danced in the courtyard. But the wise old tortoise watches before he moves, and no one that season was truly watching. Emeka was unlike any man the village had ever set eyes upon, charming, generous, and well spoken. He danced at every festival, laughed the loudest at every gathering, and gave gifts to the elders. He told Adaeze she was the sun that rose only for him, the river that quenched only his thirst. She believed him. How could she not, when every word was honey and every smile was moonlight? Even the river believes it flows freely until it meets the dam hidden beneath the surface. The courtship was short, the bride price was paid, and the wedding drums shook the red earth. But no one asked where Emeka came from, and no one asked why he had no family of his own. On the night of their wedding, as Adaeze wept tears of joy, Emeka sat apart in the corner. He was not moved, he was not smiling, he was simply watching her with empty, calculating eyes, like a hunter who has already trapped his prey and now only waits for morning to collect it. She told herself it was exhaustion from the long day of celebration and travel and song. She told herself all men were different, and that love showed itself in different forms. But the moonbird outside their hut cried 3 times before the first cock crowed that night, and the elders always say, the moonbird only cries when something is wrong with the soul nearby. Days turned to weeks, and the warm, laughing Emeka the village knew began to vanish like morning mist. At home, behind closed doors, his eyes were hollow, like dried wells that had forgotten how to fill. He spoke without warmth, moved without tenderness, and listened without truly hearing a word. When Adaeze cried, he watched her tears with curiosity, the way a child studies an injured insect, not with pity, not with concern, but with cold, quiet fascination that made her skin grow cold. He never comforted her. He never held her. He only ever observed, measured, and calculated. For the heart of a psychopath does not feel what others feel. It only plots what comes next. Slowly, like termites eating a beam from the inside, Emeka began to cut Adaeze's roots one by one. First, he
Your mother
insulted her
has no
mother
place
with
here,
quiet
Adaeze.
venom until the old
Bringing
woman
food.
stopped crossing their threshold. Then he planted lies in the ears of her brothers until they turned from her in wounded confusion. He whispered poison into every friendly ear, twisting truth into shapes no one could recognize, until Adaeze stood completely alone, like a palm tree uprooted and left to dry in the sun. He told her softly, "You only have me now," and in her deep loneliness, she began to believe it. That is the sharpest weapon of the psychopath. He does not use a cutlass. He uses your love. It was Mama Ngozi who first dared to speak the truth, a woman who had seen 90 harmattan seasons. She had buried 2 husbands and raised 7 children, and knew the scent of a rotten spirit from afar. One morning by the stream, she took Adaeze's trembling hands into her weathered ancient palms. She looked into her eyes with the steady gaze of a woman who had nothing left to fear in this world, and she whispered, "My daughter, a man who feels nothing will take everything you have and more." Adaeze pulled her hands away and walked on, for she was not yet ready to hear the full truth. But when a woman loves deeply, she builds her home on broken ground, and the earth always cracks. The rains of truth cannot be held back forever, and that night, the sky tore itself wide open. Thunder cracked the darkness and lightning split the ancient Iroko tree at the edge of the village. Inside their hut, Emeka did something that could never be unseen, never be explained, never forgiven. Adaeze lay on the cold mud floor, her body broken, her spirit shattered like a clay water pot, and Emeka stood above her, not with rage, not with remorse, not with even a flicker of guilt. His face held the calm blankness of a man standing over something that simply no longer mattered. And in that terrible silence, Adaeze finally, fully, completely understood what she had married. Before the cock crowed the next morning, before the village stirred, Adaeze quietly rose from the floor. She wrapped her cloth around her wounds, not with shame, but with the slow dignity of a woman reborn. She gathered only what was truly hers and walked through the door into the cool, grey light of dawn. Mama Ngozi was already waiting at the road, as though the ancestors had sent her a dream in the night. Her brothers were there too, having finally heard the truth that had been buried beneath Emeka's lies. And the women of the village stood in a long, quiet line, with oil lamps burning against the dark. For in our land, we say, it is never too late for the lost child to find a way back home. And so ends the tale of Adaeze, the woman who married the man they called Emeka the psychopath. She survived what many women have not survived, and she carried her scars like a warrior's markings. Our elders teach us, not every smooth stone is good for grinding. Beauty is not proof of goodness. Watch the eyes of those who seek you, for the eyes cannot lie as well as the tongue ever can. A man who does not grieve cannot love. A man who does not feel cannot build what love requires. Guard your roots, guard your peace, and never mistake a man's performance for his true character. This has been our story tonight. May it live in your heart, and may it become your warning.